A flesh-eating parasite that feeds on warm-blooded animals has been detected in the United States for the first time since 1966. The U.S. Department of Agriculture said the New World Screwworm, or NWS, was found in a calf in Texas. The parasite, which has been advancing across Mexico for the past year, was confirmed in the town of La Pryor, Texas, located about 30 miles from the southern U.S. Mexico border. Officials noted that the U.S. has been monitoring the situation since cases began increasing in Central America and Mexico. The detection raises concerns that an outbreak could potentially shrink cattle herds, reduce beef production, and drive up consumer prices. The USDA and Texas authorities are responding by establishing a detection and quarantine zone around the site. The next step involves monitoring the spread of the parasite as authorities work to contain the presence of the New World Screwworm. President Trump signed an executive order that places approximately 8,000 high-ranking civil servants into a new employment category. This action changes the job protections for these federal workers. The order moves these employees into a classification that allows them to be terminated for any reason. The directive focuses specifically on these high-ranking civil servants, altering their employment status under federal guidelines. The scope of the order is limited to this specific group of federal employees. The material update remains focused on the executive order's effect on the employment status of these 8,000 workers. President Trump signed an executive order that puts some 8,000 high-ranking civil servants into a new category of employees who can be fired for any reason. The U.S. Senate voted to advance a stalled immigration spending bill after Republicans removed funding earmarked for President Donald Trump's new White House ballroom. Senators passed the measure in a 53-45 vote on Wednesday, moving forward with legislation that funds agencies like Immigration and Customs Enforcement and Border Patrol. The funding had been intended for U.S. Secret Service security upgrades related to the construction project, a request that followed an incident at a gala Trump attended in April. The bill, which is expected to provide roughly for immigration agencies, has drawn criticism from some lawmakers. Critics have previously called out funds related to the bill as a potential slush fund. The legislation will now move through debate and amendments in the Senate before a final vote. If passed, it would then head to the House of Representatives. Primary voters in New Jersey finalized the race for one of the state's most competitive seats, a contest made unusual by the absence of incumbent Republican Congressman Tom Kean Jr. Has not been seen on the campaign trail or on Capitol Hill for several months. Specifically, he last voted in the House on March 5 and has not been seen in public since that date. The situation has raised questions regarding his status in Washington. When asked about the matter, one source stated that the only information available was that he has a personal medical issue. Earlier, Kean waited until late April to issue a statement that mentioned a doctor forecasting a full recovery soon. The next step involves monitoring the situation as the race for the New Jersey seat concludes. Discussions are underway regarding the potential role of Poland and Lithuania in NATO's nuclear deterrence efforts, which involve U.S. nuclear weapons in Europe. Lithuanian Defense Minister Robertas Kaunas stated that discussions are ongoing, adding that Lithuania is certainly not standing on the sidelines. This followed reports that the United States signaled openness to deploying elements of its nuclear arsenal in new European countries. Polish Deputy Defense Minister Paul Zelski noted that while talks are happening to create better conditions for nuclear deterrence, he stressed that hosting nuclear weapons would be an extremely serious matter, which is serious in terms of political consequences. The Pentagon declined to comment on the discussions, but a Defense Department official said the U.S. and NATO continuously assess the security environment while working to maintain effective deterrence. The U.S. has stationed nuclear weapons in several European countries for decades as part of its security guarantees to NATO allies. The next step involves the U.S. and NATO continuing to assess the security environment. Health officials warn that the Ebola crisis remains active, with more than 340 cases confirmed, and the outbreak having crossed into neighboring Uganda. The World Health Organization stated that the fight against the virus in the Democratic Republic of Congo is struggling to keep pace with the spread. This development worsens the challenge of containing the deadly disease in a region already dealing with conflict, displacement, and strained healthcare systems. Officials noted that the outbreak has spread significantly, moving beyond the initial 3 areas to more than 20 health zones across the country. The situation is complicated by the geography, as the capital, Kinshasa, is located about 950 miles from the outbreak's epicenter in the northeast. Health officials are currently working to contain the spread. However, the scope of the outbreak remains a primary concern for regional health authorities. The warning came during questioning from NPR's Stephen Skeep regarding the mortgage chief's appointment. Warner focused on the potential risks inherent in the move, keeping the discussion narrowly focused on the appointment itself. The scope of the discussion remained limited to the verified concerns about the appointment. Warner warns of risks from Polt's intelligence appointment. More than 900 deep-sea ocean sensors are slated to be pulled out of the Pacific and Atlantic Oceans near Washington, Oregon, Alaska, North Carolina, and Greenland. Researchers have stated that these sensors are among the most critical tools for observing the health of the world's oceans. The sensors monitor key conditions like water temperature, salinity, and ocean currents. These measurements help scientists understand how the oceans are responding to climate change. The data collected is vital because the oceans regulate global weather patterns and provide food for millions of people worldwide. The project involved decades of research and was described as a major scientific undertaking. Scientists noted that the data helps track how much carbon pollution the oceans have absorbed from the atmosphere. The scope of the removal means that research into these ocean systems is effectively stopping. The next step involves monitoring the status of this ocean observation program.